for the audience to join. Can you see me and hear me okay, everyone? Great. Okay, I do see people joining, so we'll just wait one more minute. Okay, everyone. I assume I was on mute, so let's start this over. Is Shaylee here with us? Give me a second. Let me just add Shaylee over here. Okay. Okay, hello everyone and welcome to Extraordinary Women in Tech. My name is Nariman Jamal. I am the Business Development Specialist at Avenue Code. We are a global consulting company focused on digital transformation and IT innovation. And this is our first time entering the Middle East region. So what makes this discussion even more special is the fact that I'm speaking to 3 extraordinary women leaders who are building the future of technology in the Middle East. Please allow me to introduce our panel. First, we have Shaylee Verma, who is the head of data and market analysis at Emaar. Emaar is a multinational real estate development company in the UAE. Shaylee has led assignments in the Middle East, the United States, and India, with 14 years of experience in strategy and analytics, and major focus on customer and product analytics, as well as digital marketing. Shaylee focuses on identifying the growth opportunities with business and products and enable teams to focus where it makes actual difference. Welcome, Shaylee. So excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Nariman. My pleasure.
Of course. Next, we have Jauhara Al-Mendil, who is the head of customer value management function at one of the largest financial institutions in Saudi Arabia. Jauhara is a dynamic, strategic, and marketing professional with a strong academic background and a solid international experience. She has built her experience in strategy and business development over the past 9 years. Welcome, Jauhara. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Nariman. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. Last but not least, Dana Shaheen, who is the Director of FinTech and Digital Banking in the MENA region at Visa. She is currently based in Dubai. She has a BS in Finance and a BA in Journalism and Media Studies from Rutgers University, as well as an MBA from London Business School in London. At Visa, Dana worked closely with fintech and digital banking partners on delivering innovative payments solutions to the MENA market by leveraging Visa leading digital payments network and solutions. Prior to joining Visa, Dana worked in investment banking for 7 years and with a number of startups in London in the fintech and healthcare industry. Welcome, Dana. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Nariman. Pleasure.
Thank you. Welcome, ladies, and thanks for joining us today. I'd like to kick off this discussion by a question that would give the audience the chance to get to know you a little bit more and probably about your creativity and innovators. So let's start with the question. If you had a $10 million to spend on a new idea, what would it be and why? I'm going to start here with Al-Jauhara.
Okay, so if I come to think about it, Nariman, at this point, the pandemic has been very tough on everybody mentally, mostly. So we've been locked in my country for a while now. We cannot be traveling around, no visiting, no sightseeing anymore, no food for the eyes. So if you come and ask me today, what would I think that could be $1 million or a $10 million idea, I would say maybe a virtual traveling experience. That would give me a little bit of an escape from where I am right now.
This is a great idea, and I'll be the first of your, people who would sign up for that. I love it. Dana, you're next.
$10 million idea. Look, I think there's a lot of great ideas out there. I think it's more about execution. So I would spend that definitely hiring a rockstar team to test some ideas, bring a product to life, establish product market fit, and then grow and scale the business. But if I think, at least I love fintech. It's the area that I work in. And if I were to think about maybe some ideas or trends in that space, I would focus a lot on data. I think data is huge. There's massive opportunity in the Middle East to capitalize on all the data that banks hold, corporates hold, just to provide companies, banks with more insights onto how consumers behave. So that's one where I would look at. I think given where we are, we have a massive sort of youth population, 200 million, that are very active on mobile phones. We need to bring them a bit more into sort of the digital banking world. So youth propositions that are popping up all over the world in terms of banks. So something that targets the youth segment with banking, or something that supports SMEs. They've been hit really hard with the pandemic, and are traditionally sort of have high barriers to entry to sort of the financial world. So services and solutions that help SMEs get up to speed again, I think would be the three areas that I would want to sort of get into and disrupt with tech.
This is amazing. I hope everyone think about it that way. All the people that wins the lotto and, having millions of dollars of, putting them in new ideas, startups, and helping out, exactly like you said, maybe SMEs and other businesses. Shaylee, your turn. What would you do with a $10 million on a new idea?
Very interesting question. However, I'm not that much creative to think like that, but I have a investor mindset. So my answer is very simple, that I'll invest in other people's companies' ideas in order to gain financial independence and financial well-being. So those ideas, like I have a special affinity to artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and virtual reality, because those are going to be the future of shopping. So probably I will invest in some of the companies which has excelled in those products and in those areas. Another idea which attracts me a lot in entrepreneurship is about the Q-commerce, which is delivering anything less than in 1 hour. So I think that I will be investing in those companies and will gain on top of it. So
yeah,
easy.
Okay, well, for all the future entrepreneurs, keep your eyes on Shaylee. You never know when she can invest in your idea.
I'm all open for you.
This is great. Okay, I will move back to Al-Jauhara. And Al-Jauhara, you have studied and lived abroad for a few years before returning back to your home country, Saudi Arabia. Could you walk us through your career development and how women empowerment initiatives in Saudi Arabia has impacted your career growth?
Sure, but before I start that, let me take you a little bit before I've actually reached the US, because that's where the actual realization came from, right? So being a woman in Saudi, the lifestyle in Saudi, the tradition and all of that, and that applies to most of the families in here. Women in Saudi used to be more dependent on the family members, more dependent on the actually male members, because that's where we're mostly sought to look out to. So when I decided to move to the United States and take my experience to start studying abroad, it wasn't actually more of a studying abroad, because we have our universities and we have our great universities with great majors. But the idea was to actually experience what is the difference between what I lived and what am I going to see, what is happening outside of my borders. So I decided to move to the United States, and I decided first to go for a major that mostly is for men. And I do come from, by the way, a very male dominant family, because I was raised with like 5 males when I was younger. But through my time, when I decided to move to the US, I was mostly focusing of which major that today women in Saudi is not allowed to go forward to, right? So engineering was it something that's very common. Definitely militaries was out of question in my time. So even law was not a question at that time. So I decided to move forward with something that has to do and touch all aspects, which was basically built into the business and marketing, strategic marketing specifically. So when I went to the US and I started studying and I started seeing the life abroad and all of that, it was very different. The experience, I mean, I went through it all, even destroying my own laundry at the first and beginning of it. Like, it wasn't something very common, you know. I lost a lot of clothes, but it's okay. It was an experience for me. Paying my own bills, I was like, I don't even know what is that. Going and actually putting my name into a rent, putting a car, driving at that time wasn't something very common. I had my own experience through that. Maybe we take it another webinar, right? But through the time that I was in there, even when I first reached the United States, there were already some of the majors that I wasn't allowed to take as a woman, because if I come back to the country, it will not exist for me as a career. Being there, tested that, done all of that, I tried to do the impossible to do in the male dominant area. But when I came back, I guess I was very lucky, because in my time, Saudi was already moved forward. And now it's only moving forward. And now it's all about female empowerment. So what I see today and what I was before, it's completely different. Today, most of the companies and organizations are actually empowering the women, building more skills, developing them from soft skills, from technical skills. They're trying to to take the dominant male area and bring the female. And to be honest with you, even when I started my career at first, when they tell me I have a female manager, I used to freak out, right? Not because she's a female, it's because I know that there are no skills. So I was like, oh, what am I going to develop in here, right? But at this time, today, it's totally different. Females lead with professionalism. Females, to be honest, Annie, with all respect to my male colleagues and everybody in the world, but I feel the females are more committed. So I've seen that through growing up. And I think that was already highlighted. And that's where the empowerment started coming more of a bigger picture. And again, maybe I got so lucky in my generation. It opened up all the way for me. There was no like closed doors through my walk forward. But today I can say that there is no stepping stones that we are saying we cannot go forward with anymore. Nothing can stop us. It's mostly that the female in Saudi or maybe in GCC countries that also share the same culture, she's the person that is responsible to move herself forward. She's the one who should take that. She's the one who can close her ears to all the words and all the people that tells her that you cannot, because that's the challenge. It's not the marketplace, it's not the organization, it's not the people anymore, it's herself. So this is the only obstacle today that I see for a female in Saudi.
This is great. And, you know, it's very important for countries to realize how important the presence of women is in the workforce. You know, I've read an article about how the US and Saudi Arabia are both working on initiatives for women participation in the economy, because it does lead to security, to stability, and to a better economic development in the region. This is great, and thank you for highlighting this. I know that there's more light shed on Saudi Arabia on how they're empowering women, and I know that a lot of women are entering executive positions, you know, industries that they have not been present in before. So I'm very happy to see you where you are today and for you to be, sharing this experience with us. I'm going to move to Dana here. And Dana, you have extensive experience in investment banking across several regions, the USA, UK, and the UAE as well. What are the advantages that you've noticed the Middle East has offered you in terms of technology?
Sure. So, as you actually mentioned, I worked across various sectors. I started my career in the US. I also studied in the US. I've also worked in London, but I spent really the majority of my career here in the Middle East. And after I left investment banking, went to pursue my MBA in London. I was really thinking, whether to stay abroad or come back to the region where I'm from. And especially wanting to get into the tech sector, which is still relatively nascent here in the region. If you're comparing it to, San Francisco, London, Singapore, and other sort of geographies, we're still pretty much in early days when it comes to really tech advancing. However, I think the government have invested a lot of money in setting up right infrastructure, right funds to support sort of entrepreneurship and the startup ecosystem. I'm based in the UAE, and here in Dubai, we're really seeing an innovation and a fintech hub, whether it's Dubai or the UAE, being set up and promoted. So for me, wanting to think of my career and where I wanted to sort of put my efforts, I think, coming back here to work on sort of pushing the innovation, pushing tech sector forward, especially for me wanting to get into fintech, just presented a much more exciting opportunity than working in a sort of more advanced or developed market. There's pros and cons to both, of course. There's pros and cons to being in a city like Singapore, London, San Francisco, but even being in Dubai, when you're really sort of riding that wave of innovation and where your impact can be much, much larger. I think that, for me, that presented a really great opportunity to come here, make a difference, and work on sort of exciting projects through my day-to-day work that impacts really people's lives in a significant way, where there aren't as many sort of options available to consumers, to enterprises, as much as there is in sort of developed markets. Another thing is, I love challenges, right? So working in the Middle East is challenging for many reasons. But for me, these challenges are really exciting. So we have a highly sort of fragmented region, despite it being sort of homogenous in terms of maybe language. Consumers behave very differently from one country to another. Regulation and frameworks are very different. So really working in the Middle East while you're covering a region, it is not homogenous. So each country presents a different challenge, different regulators, different sort of infrastructure that's available. Consumers think and behave differently, so marketing to them would be quite different. So for me, that's a massive learning opportunity, and it's really exciting. I think this dynamic, you don't really get working in places like the US, maybe, where it's a much more homogenous market that you can scale quite easily, one solution across, a massive population. Here, it comes with a lot of nuances. And for me, that always presents, whether you're talking about fintech, working in pizza, or really any other industry that you're starting a business in or working in, it's really working around these nuances that makes it very exciting. And I think also one last thing I would say is that in terms of, I'm a person that loves to work in sort of diverse environments. And here, especially working in Dubai, but you're also seeing it a lot more now in Saudi and across the entire region, you're working with people from all walks of life, different experiences. We've got the best talents coming here, looking for similar challenges, that the ones I'm talking about, and an exciting sort of career leap or change. And really, it's a melting pot of skills and of nationalities and opportunities. So for me, that creates a highly exciting and rewarding work environment. And so for me, working in the Middle East, gave me an advantage or an opportunity to tap into all of these sort of three dynamics that I look for in my career.
This is great. Okay, let me follow up with another question to you. How do you think your global experience, or what do you think your global experience has brought to the region? You've worked, like, I'm going to repeat it to the audience. Dana worked in the USA, in the UK, and now she's in the UAE. So you have wide experience in your field. What do you think you brought to that sector in the Middle East?
Sure. So if we compare it to, let's say, someone that maybe hasn't left the region, and I think, it's really important when you're out, whether you're studying, gaining knowledge through schooling or through interacting with people from different markets and working in different markets, is to really see, these are developed sort of markets that we're talking about. And even though here we are pretty much developed as well, but it's still very much an emerging economy. So really bringing know-how, best practices, skills, experiences, cases, whatever it is that you learn from while you're working or building overseas, and bringing back these learnings to the region, I think it creates a massive sort of impact on whatever it is that you're doing. So for me, I worked in startups in London. The tech scene there is really vibrant. So bringing back these learnings to the region, to my sector where I'm working in fintech, really helped me see sort of, or envision where this sector is heading, and have a sort of the long-term view on where we're heading, where are the opportunities that lie, what could really make sense for this region. So while I'm sitting in London Business School during my MBA, I was exposed to tons of ideas, entrepreneurs, and really seeing sort of where tech is heading. So bringing back these ideas and thinking, okay, what sort of opportunities make most sense in the region, marrying the knowledge I have of life in the Middle East with what life could be looking at the West, and all of that helps me a lot, especially in my career, where I can bring sort of ideas from London market, etc., and then discuss them with my clients here, etc. So I think this is really the main sort of asset or advantage of having worked overseas.
This is amazing. I think about it myself every time I moved also to the United States from Lebanon, and every time I go back to the region, I do realize things that I've seen in the USA that I would love to bring to this region. I'd love to share with people around me in this region. So experience, knowledge, education definitely makes a huge impact on where you're moving, where you're working, who you're impacting. So this is amazing. And I'm very excited to see what the future holds for you and what you will be accomplishing in the UAE.
A lot of times, if we look at entrepreneurship here as well in the MENA region or tech, etc., we're not always reinventing the wheel. It's not always about sort of reinventing the wheel, thinking about new things. It's really looking at what's worked in other markets, but then making sure that it's localized, that solutions are localized, they fit for the way that consumers think here, for the problems that solve problems for the everyday consumer or business in the MENA region, and to have that visibility on what's been done, but then also what can work over here. It gives you, having that perspective, I think gives you a really big advantage and can help accelerate sort of the sector here as well.
I totally agree. And, speaking about go-getters and motivation, everything, I want to move to Shaylee. During our preparation call, you did mention that you were the first engineer in your city in India. And now you are the head of data and analytics in one of the biggest real estate companies in the UAE. What are the main key advice that you would give to female leaders or women who are just starting their career that is similar to yours?
Sure. So you touched upon a topic which I'm not that much proud of. Like, this is unfortunate that it started in 2002, but now the graph is growing. The more women are coming out, and it is getting better. So I want to start on this with a piece of data or the facts, which is important, which will help us in understanding how much the gap still exists, as you mentioned about the female leadership. So if I tell you the recent studies and the numbers, so if you compare Middle East women who are there in the leadership, those are only the chairperson, the top business owners, the top leadership, even in the government and ministries, it is only 0.8% of the total leadership, in comparison to the Nordic countries, which goes from 30% to 32%. You must be seeing a lot of prime ministers these days are also women. So that fact highlights the pressing issue in its own, that how much it is required for women like us or the younger women to participate. So the gap is real, and it needs to be bridged. So now coming back on your question, like what I want to tell them, what piece of advice I want to tell. So it is very important to see the aspects not only from the girl side, but I will also say something about the ecosystem which nurtured those women into the female leadership. So first, about women, that I want to tell them that educate yourself, and educate yourself by not just seeing the celebrity life or Instagrammers life, but also some life stories like Kalpana Chawla, like Malala, like Greta. So rather than being stuck in the conventional marketing stories, also please, most importantly, dream big. It is not undervalued statement, but also negotiate about those dreams. It is also very important at the point where you are reaching onto some stage, and you need to negotiate about that. And most importantly, again, help another woman. That is what I think, that is a go-getter attitude. That will lead any female person to any success path. That is what I want to say to the female women. But also I want to tell something to the ecosystem, because ecosystem nurtures male and female both. So ecosystem also should be able to help us women in a sense, rather than endorsing, or rather than showcasing only the magazine with the fall trends. We should also have the magazine or endorsed trends around the world about 100 new ways to become a tech savvy woman, or 100 new ways to become a data scientist, and follow the same fall trends and same fashion at the same time. Like that, there is no harm in doing that as well. But the ecosystem is equally responsible to nurture the women leadership. So that's what my piece of advice is.
This is great advice. And, you know, if I met you like 5 years ago, I would have definitely be, you know, exposed to this great information that you just provided on how to approach becoming successful. Just educating yourself is the main key of just being exposed to what's out there, you know, understanding the trends of technology, or understanding what you can do in your career moving forward, especially in this region. And there's a lot of challenges that women face, but you've all faced challenges and you've all overcome these challenges and you made the best out of them. So there's really nothing that can stop women of achieving what their big dreams, like you mentioned. So do dream big, you know, even if things doesn't work, this is a chance for women to get educated by their own experiences. Thank you so much for sharing this. This is amazing. And I'm sure a lot of women would be very inspired by your words. I'm going to try to focus more right now on the Middle East and the e-commerce market in there. And I will ask this question for mainly Al-Jauhara and Dana. You know, the Middle East has been expanding their e-commerce market and noticing technological changes in regards and investing into digital transformation. How do you think the ecosystem is adapting to these changes or demands? And what do you expect these digital changes to impact the region? How do you think they're gonna impact the future of it, the present, moving forward? Dana, I will start with you with this question.
Sure, Naiman. So yes, as you rightfully mentioned, I think especially with COVID and with the pandemic, we've just seen a massive shift in consumer behavior here in the region towards sort of digital adoption. And e-commerce has really surged over the last few months. And you know, surveys have been issued by many parties here that have really shown that a lot of these behaviors are here to stay. So there's a large stickiness in sort of this shift towards online shopping. And how is the ecosystem adapted? So there's multiple layers. Merchants, for the first time, a lot of industries have begun offering their products online. So we've seen a massive surge in even SME merchants going online and providing goods and services online. We've seen consumers also shifting their habits towards online shopping. This is across verticals. There's a proliferation of delivery services, the platformization, I would say, of retail services, really to offer everything from groceries to everything that we can purchase online, and home services. So on the one side, there's the supply side is really, it has seen a surge and increase, but then also on the consumer side, we've seen an increase in trust and usage of online and digital payments. Banks have teamed up with the payment service providers. Governments have also teamed up with sort of PSPs or banks as well to promote things like contactless payments that have seen a massive surge. The trust that we had, there was a trust barrier really in online payment that has now just jumped and seen a massive shift as consumers are starting to want to pay online, want to pay contactless, and avoid cash. So cash on delivery, as of a few years ago in the Middle East, I mean, this is one of the key sort of differentiators that we have in this market as a hurdle towards e-commerce adoption. Maybe 80% or so of transactions were cash on delivery, which was a big hurdle. And, the pandemic has really accelerated sort of the displacement of cash on delivery, as we saw retailers for the first time, online retailers, switch off that option during the pandemic. So while 60% of their sales used to be in cash on delivery, they completely switched off that function, so that consumers were, I would say, forced to adapt very quickly, start paying online, start paying in card on delivery. And this movement has increased maybe trust in online payments, and we think that this move is really here to stay. So this creates a massive opportunity for e-commerce to continue growing as we remove this hurdle. Governments and all of the ecosystem is partnering logistics, infrastructure providers to meet the demands of the digital consumer these days. And for me, I think those are the biggest trends that we saw following the pandemic, and what we expect to stay going forward.
I just wish these changes and ideas in the region happened in a time that wasn't related to COVID-19, but it's here right now. Al-Jauhara, what do you think about these technological changes, and how do you think they're going to impact the region?
Nariman, as Dana mentioned, the pandemic really shifted the behavior of our consumers today. They shifted the behavior of our clients as well. So there was a huge resistance before regarding, especially when we're speaking to ultra net worth people. There's always this person-to-person demand. So there usually have been this resistance to the change of me moving to digital. But after the pandemic, this was not an option anymore. So for us, it was a win-win situation, because it gave them the opportunity to taste what is digital serving today, and how fast it could be, and how luxury it could be at the same time. But that's from the consumer aspect. But to take it from another side, where I have also faced that, is that businesses changed, environment of organizations changed. For me, if you ask me honestly, and I keep saying that, is that I enjoyed like the webinars, meetings. I enjoyed the digital approach instead of like physical, because at certain places, when you come to a management level, there's a lot of meetings, there's a lot of discussions, there's a lot of arguments back and forth. So making that easier through the digital, to trust the channels digitally, that we can carry forward confidential discussions, that we can carry forward decision making through the webinars. This was something, to me, like speeded up the business itself. So we moved faster because our meeting became faster. We don't need this physical approach. We don't need you to be able to meet us at the time or not. So this was a support for us from our side. Even internationally, our partners, like when we talk to them, or when we have people that wants to approach us internationally, this is something that literally supported, because it made us closer. Despite there's always been this say that digital distance people and it puts them in a solo. I think actually digital at this time literally brought us together. So it was the only way that we could approach and have this conversation. And that supported very much in the growth, and not to have a hiccup in the process of speed in developing businesses.
I would like to vouch, Al-Jauhara, what you said, that this brought us on the fastest speed and fast pace, like 100%. And I'm very sure that this must be visible in all the work of digital technologies, and in the processes, in the business process management, approval, everything. This is one thing which actually it helped. But I would also like to add in the same thing that the learning is totally disruptive due to this pandemic. The digitization is no more a choice; it is a mandatory thing. So the learning, the online, the schooling, the communication, as you mentioned about the virtual meetings. Apart from that, the travel and mobility, it was, as you mentioned, that you want to venture your $10 million in the virtual new vacation ideas. I think that is very soon is going to be a thing, a product very, very soon. Also, I noticed that in the shopping behavior, like the way Dana explained that there is a surge in e-commerce 100%, like nobody can ignore that. I also see some trends that there is a decline in discretionary spends. And it is more towards on the value oriented, what values do your life. And similarly, this is also about having the larger baskets and what matters to sustain your life livelihoods. Also, there's a shift from like stores to closer to your home. The polarization is increased to the sustainability. So I think I was just trying to add more in your comments, because I can't. I 100% agree on what you said.
Please feel free to jump in if you have any opinion to share. Having these video calls and webinars and Zoom links and everything, at the beginning, it was a bit scary for, losing physical, meetings and things like that. But I just had a meeting with our VP, with a client in our Europe office. And it was amazing, because if it wasn't for Zoom, for us to, have this meeting, we wouldn't have met with her. And it was a great, meeting. It was a great, we created this bond together. Some people don't like video calls, but we have got used to doing everything digitally. So not sure how the future will look like, but hopefully it will only get better.
It is helping getting things done. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Like, it is helping getting things done. If you assume like our own meeting, how difficult it is to have the logistics and then having a talk like this easy. This is absolutely very easy at the moment.
Exactly. And I have met you all ladies through Zoom links. So we are thankful for technology at this point. Shaylee, I will ask you more a question related to your background. Over the past decade, the MENA region has been a key source of capital into real estate markets. And this trend has only set to accelerate. What modern data analytic tools are helping the change in the real estate for the better?
Sure. So as you mentioned that my background is digital. So that not only the data analytics tool, I will say that the tools which help in expediting the business decision making are high in trend, and eventually we call them data dashboards or reporting tools. But also I want to highlight the importance of having the automation in place, the automation tools which enable automation, tools which enable marketing, tools which enable even the data segmentation, processing, and machine learning. So those are highly appreciated in the region, and those are highly in trend. So you will see the trend which is growing for, as Dana mentioned at the start, of having the data and having a normalized data where we can take decision based on the data insights. So the measurement tool is definitely number one, which are there in the high trend. I don't want to be naming some of those. These are quite a lot in the market. Apart from that, tools which help in deliveries, tools which help in fast mobile app development, tools which are helping digital transformation, because in pandemic, you must be seeing that the whole company goes from email to Teams, or from Jira to Slack, and those shifts are there because the micro messaging is quite in trend. Apart from this, what I'm seeing is a huge trend coming up for our augmented reality and the virtual reality enabled products. And I'm seeing that in retail, the major focus, because retail is now shifting towards e-commerce, and the experience has become more towards the AR and VR. And those, according to me, those will be the future. So so that trend is also there in the Middle East, and a lot of people are already talking about the technology, how to implement and how to go forward with those kind of tool. In data analytics specifically, I think that the next gen trend, which already is here, is about like the streaming data, click stream data, so that we can get every second or a fraction of seconds input, and the constant data can be analyzed. The same trend has been evolved since this Netflix and subscription-based business, and the streaming business are in place since the pandemic. It's going now. It's 1 year. It started in November, because that tells businesses more insight about what where user are clicking, what user are shutting down or opening or leaving in the middle bit, so that the AI can pick up and then can tell you the next best insight, next best action to retain those users, or maybe to acquire new customers, because at the end it is all about like retention, acquisition, and development of the customers, and any business rely on those. So I think these are the trends which I'm seeing that even now. And hi, can you hear me?
Shaylee,
Did I break in the? You can't hear
okay,
me?
good.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, do you want me to repeat?
Yes, you were saying that these were the main trends that you've been seeing in the region right now.
Yeah, that's it. Cool.
Okay, great. Good timing. You know, even in the US, we've been noticing a big movement in virtual experience in real estate. People have been, you know, joining tours through like virtual videos. They've been doing home tours from their own home. So very interesting. No one would probably ever thought that we can do all this in the future, but here we are.
So the 360 tours of the home, you don't need to go to see the site. So you mentioned actually a very good example, that 360 tours and the VR tours, you are even enabled to see the full model of the communities and master communities, and you can visualize that where your house is going to be. So that's where the AR VR is also in play in real estate already. My companies are in progress in using those. Similarly, as you mentioned, that the experience will be more about like the experiential product, so that user is more associated with the context.
Another reason to do something from home and not go to the actual place. Okay, I will head to our last question, which will be for all of you ladies. We would like to know about the main tech trends that you are seeing in the Middle East today, and mainly the trends that got accelerated during the pandemic. Dana, I will start with you.
Sure, Naiman. I think we talked a lot about digital payments, e-commerce. So the risk of repeating myself, I think this is one of the sort of key trends that we're seeing here. The advent of sort of online services, home services, digital health has also seen a massive surge in adoption during the pandemic, as you can imagine, as people wanted to access healthcare from home. And this is another area that I think has been massively sort of accelerated during COVID pandemic. All infrastructure, logistics, sector that support e-commerce, that support sort of services and goods that coming to you, have also seen a massive surge. Don't want to name all the trends, just see what the other ladies have to say, but for me, I think those have been the main sort of trends that we've seen here in the region.
Jauhara, what do you think the main trends were in the Middle East?
I totally agree with Dana. I mean, payments now is a very huge trend that's happening, and it's either you ride the wave or you're out of it. And I do remember from what Shaylee was saying previously regarding the machine learning and all of that, this is actually becoming a huge trend in organizations today, because it's very difficult when you're running a huge organization with so many clients into it to start manually running the decisions that you want to take as a business rule, futuristically talking. So machine learning today and the AI is really playing a big role, especially when it comes to building the perfect criteria for the perfect segment, for the perfect approach and product, and how the tech is supporting in decision making in consideration to all of the rules that you're looking forward to, and in consideration to all the risk that we want to feed into it. So this is something that today is playing very big. I know that there is not much in the world, I'm talking, not much approach into it, but today I see that it's between IT and analysis, where things are like being merged and they're becoming a bigger picture of where people start focusing and going forward to.
Great insights from you ladies. What about Shaylee? What do you think?
I will only echo with the ladies over here, because these are the trends these days. According to me, the contactless any devices will be in the trend, including payment, including smart wearables, including whatever enable humans to not to be physically available, and the dependency will be cut down through that, and that will be enabled with 100% with AI, because that's where we receive the most value out of it. So definitely it will be those. In digital, I will say that automation will be in high trends, and also something which will be cookie-less information receiving and capturing, and then utilizing those data to derive insights is also in trend, because Apple and Google now has announced about not having the cookies in the browser. So it will be very interesting to see that how we can generate the same insights, and we can generate the same reach having no cookies in the systems. So I think that these will be the huge trends. Apart from that, yeah, AR, VR, again, my favorites.
I think what I would just want to add, aside from actual sectorial trends, I think we're just seeing a massive shift even in the mindset of everything from regulators that are extremely progressive. We've seen a massive sort of changes from a regulatory perspective, at least to support fintechs and payments from where I stand in my world, looking to drive sort of the adoption of digital payments, more collaboration between governments and corporates, and sort of new startups coming up as well. So there's this culture more of collaboration and opening up that's happening across the entire region. Of course, investment coming in as well, increased investment in all of these sectors. So aside from sort of tech trends, I would say even as an ecosystem, we're seeing a lot of changes happening, and parties coming together to collaborate, to really drive innovation forward for consumers and for businesses that are really looking for, whether it's frictionless, seamless, and more customized experiences, whether it's in your managing your financials or shopping online, etc. There's a higher and higher demand of customized benefits, customized experiences that are frictionless across the board, and then all these parties coming together to provide those experiences.
I can tell these are the trends, since you all mentioned almost the same trends happening in that region. Thank you so much, ladies, for all these amazing answers and advice and input, and sharing your experience as well. I will jump here into the Q&A part. If anyone has a question, please feel free to send it to us. I will start with the first question that we've received. Hi all, my question, what's up in future jobs? In IT or in what? So what do you think the future jobs will look like? Would it be in IT or would it be in another industry or sector? Please feel free to share your opinions.
I believe that I'm not biased, but towards data, because that's my job, but I see that there will be a growing trend to have the data jobs, and actually more variety in the data jobs, including data scientists, including data engineers, and having more affinity towards being informed decisions. So I think that will be growing. That is still growing, and that will be growing in future a lot. I don't want to separate it by IT or in business domains. Definitely business needs all the departments. So IT will always be there, and it needs to be there because it is the backbone of any industry, irrespective of offline and online. But I see that the data will be on the growing trend.
I agree. And, it's everywhere around us right now, and everything we do, schooling, work, traveling, shopping, the small and big things. IT is associated with this. Dana, did you have anything to add on?
Yes. So I think one of sort of the main pillars, or for growth in the tech sector here, is talent. So this region needs top talent, whether it's in engineering, data scientists, any sort of role that you can play in a tech company, even from the business side, you know, in business development without having a technology background. It's wherever your strengths are. But our tech sector definitely needs more talent in engineering and all the sort of the STEM fields, and expertise. Anything from machine learning, AI will be extremely useful and in much sort of in high demand in the region here. So definitely all the computer science, engineering, data science fields will be in high demand for the job market here in the coming years.
Yes, Jauhara, go ahead.
So Nariman, to add further to what Shaylee and Dana said, looking at the trend today, and this is something that is happening today in job interviews specifically, it's not a trend anymore for people to request a job description, because today's market, there is no one way. There has to be you're skilled in and talented in different areas that you can develop, because the market is too fast. So there's no way to say, I'm tunneled, I'm only going to be focusing on IT, so I don't see anybody else, or I'm tunneled, I'm not going to see anything but the data. Today, most of the things that are coming more into trend is actually how you read between the lines of both. So how you can merge. I mean, business analysts came because IT people could not speak to business people, and they did not have this same language shared. So business analysts came to translate the languages of both of them. Same of the insights team. Insights team came because, again, research people could not deliver their language to the business people, and vice versa. So insights came to read between the lines, to speak the language of both. So these are the things that I think today is trending mostly. So when people come and ask, like, where do I start my career? Should I study that or should I study that? Because I receive a lot of questions from this aspect as well. And I tell them there's no showstopper. It's where you start. I started as a strategic marketing and international business, and today I'm in business development and into insights as well. So I'm holding the customer value management. So there's no way where you stop. It's just how you build your skills going forward into your career. Is that what's going to add more meat into where you're going to head forward as in development? So this is from my point of view, is that it's not about where I start. It's actually how much you add into your knowledge.
Yes, how you develop your skills and being open to learning new things as well. I totally agree. Our next question is, how do you cultivate female student talent in the tech industry within the Middle East? Anyone?
We
Yes.
can say in Saudi today, yani females are the luckiest could ever be. I think males today are asking for their rights. Yani because Saudi is a market that was not previously developed for females. So there was a lot of areas that today are demanding to have the female into it that are not yet there because it wasn't built for them yet. So as of today, our market is hungry. Females are called for, and we're lucky that we are also empowered, even from a government perspective, that we want to move forward to a next C-level and higher. So this, from my side, where I come from, like Saudi, this is an absolute demand.
Thank you, Jauhara. Dana, you have something to add?
Yeah, sure. So I think, one of the things that I found to be most useful in my career is companies that really support, or finding companies that really support female career progression, because it's not enough just to bring in females. It's, as you mentioned, Cultivate, right? It's important to ensure that there's the right programs in place, the right support, the right mentorship, and the right examples at the top for women to be inspired to continue in this career path. When they look up, there's people like them that represent them, where they see that, okay, there's a way to the top in this firm or industry, etc. So I think what's really critical is finding that right mentorship program, or establishing sponsorships within work that really help to women continue on this career path, and support them in various levels of their advancement. And we think Visa does a great job at this. That's one of the things that I love about the place I work, is that there's a strong women leadership mentorship program, and it's not just women mentoring women, it's actually finding male sponsors within the organization seniors that can help guide you, help you navigate your career, make these important decisions that sort of impact your career. So I think women in tech or women in other sectors, it's very important to find the right mentor, to find the right sponsor within your organizations that can support your career progression. And so picking the right company is extremely important, and the right sort of culture that really supports and not just says that out of, as part of a PR or marketing tool.
I definitely agree. And, I feel empowered after I joined Avenue Code. I'm very happy at our company, and we have great support for all women here to present their ideas, to talk out loud. We have great support from our team, from our founders to new people coming in. It's great to have a team that is supporting you at any point in your career. You feel that you're attached to the company and that you're achieving great things moving forward with them. Our next question is for Dana. What are some challenges you had when using your professional US, UK experience in the Middle East?
Challenges, okay. I think that, yes, so as I mentioned earlier, I think one of the key sort of challenges or differences is really adapting to sort of sometimes more ways that are more advanced of doing things or that are set in stone. And then coming back here and expecting, whether it's clients or whether it's, and I'm just pulling from previous experience, not necessarily from my current experience or where I work. When you're working maybe with corporates, like I did in investment banking in the US or in the UK, sometimes you're met with a more advanced way of doing things. Information is more readily available. There's a previous experience or precedent that you can rely on when working on a deal, or working on a problem with a client. So you can fall back on some of these precedent examples. There's a lot of data points in the market that you can pull from to arrive at business decisions. And when we coming to the Middle East, the main challenge I think that I found across various stages of my career is sometimes the data is not available, or it's not as advanced. There isn't as much precedence when you're looking at transactions, for example, to pull certain information from, when you're looking at the history of what's happening in the market. Sometimes the IT or infrastructure that was there with corporates, it does not allow for sort of flexible data pulling, etc. So these challenges, I think, have been the most sort of biggest or the most stark difference between working in the US, the UK, and then coming back here. It's really this availability of data and how this more advanced way of doing things. But then again, thinking about that, it also, as I said, creates a really exciting opportunity here to work on something that that is emerging, that you're really helping shape the way forward for. So it's challenging, but exciting at the same time.
Thank you so much for sharing this, Dana. We are unfortunately out of time, but I would like to thank each one of you for taking the time and putting effort in joining us today. You are all very inspiring. I loved listening to you, and I'm sure the audience has learned great things, and they were also very inspired by your experience, your personalities, and listening to how you got here where you are today. We would love to talk to you again, and please, for the audience, you can always find Dana, Jauhara, and Shaylee on LinkedIn. They're pretty active. They share about their experience, what they're working on, any future webinars that they will be, joining. Thank you for the audience who joined us today, and please be on the look. We're always inviting executives, especially women in the technology sector, to share about their experiences, the technology trends, digital transformation that is happening today. So I want to thank you all, and thank you, ladies, one more time for being here today.
Thanks, Nariman. Really,
Thank you very much, Nariman.
You're welcome. Have a great evening.
Thank you too.
Bye, everyone.
It's great meeting you all.
Same in here, Shane.